Welcome to this afternoon's virtual student event in partnership with BARBRI, Finding Your Fit, How to Research Legal Employers. I'm Juliet Griffiths, Head of Student Engagement here at Legal Cheek, and I'm very excited to introduce you to Steph Day, Careers and Employability Manager at BARBRI, who will be hosting this afternoon's session. In just a moment, I'm going to hand over to Steph to talk to you about researching law firms. But before I do, I just want to do a very quick bit of housekeeping. So just as a reminder, this session will run from 4 to 5, featuring a presentation from Steph. And during that presentation, you will have the opportunity to contribute your own thoughts. So you may have already found the chat tab on the right-hand side, but there's also a poll tab where we'll be publishing a couple of polls throughout the discussion. So please do keep an eye out for when those polls come out and make sure to submit your answers. At 5, I will come back up here and direct you all to the expo for half an hour of networking with the BARBRI team, which is probably the best opportunity for you to ask all of your sort of personal questions. There'll be another member of the BARBRI team there for sort of SQE questions, and Steph as well. So without any further ado, I will hand straight over to Steph.
That's great. Thank you so much, Juliet. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining today. Welcome to the workshop and the webinar. My name is Steph Day. I am the Careers and Employability Manager here at BARBRI. Some of you may have heard of BARBRI already, but just to give you a brief overview, we're a leading provider of legal education and exam prep. And in the UK, we're known for the Solicitor's Qualifying Exam. And in the US, we're well known for bar prep. So that's a little bit of an overview. Just going to take you through what we're going to focus on today. So we're going to have a look at kind of lots of different things around finding your fit, but in particular, understanding your career goals and thinking about routes into law. We'll also think a bit more about exploring legal roles and firms, as well as the importance of research, so what you might need to do, and then what to look for in firms and organisations, as well as a brief overview of networking and LinkedIn. And then I'll also give you a little bit of an overview of the employability support on offer through BARBRI. So understanding your career goals, really important to start doing that. And one of the things I would talk about is actually doing some self-reflection. So start thinking about what you want to do next. What motivates you? What do you enjoy? What kind of work aligns with your values and drivers? And ask yourself questions like, you know, what do I enjoy doing? What are my interests? And how might they link to other practice areas? What kind of impact do you want to make? So that is quite important. Start thinking about that. Maybe start thinking about identifying some strengths and areas for development. So evaluate your skills, your capabilities, and, you know, start thinking about that and set yourself some short and long-term goals. So, you know, you might be starting to think about studying at university, you might be at university, you might even have done that already. But some short-term goals might be that you want to gain some specific experience or develop some new skills. But long-term goals, that might relate to things like where you want to specialise in law in the future, leadership ambitions, or working in a particular sector. So lots to think about there. The other thing I would say is research and explore the sector in lots more detail. So take time to look at the different career paths, the job descriptions, the trends within the legal profession, and start kind of linking in with legal professionals if you can, attending events and broadening your understanding of what the roles involve in practice. Align it to your lifestyle as well. So consider what you need in order to feel fulfilled in the sector, But think about factors such as your working hours, your salary expectations, where you might want to be located, because all of that has an effect on your long-term career satisfaction. The other thing I would also say is gain experience, any legal experience that you can gain, but also think about the internships, vacation schemes, pro bono work, any volunteering that you can do, because all of that is going to help you to improve your skills and gain insight into what you enjoy and what you might prefer. Just a couple of on the last points: be open to change. Careers aren't linear anymore. There isn't one route in. So it's really good idea to think about your interests, your career goals. They may evolve as you gain more experience, and stay flexible, because your path as you learn and move forward in the profession may actually change. The biggest thing I would say about this sector is it is highly competitive. You will need to be quite persistent, quite motivated, and all of your preparation and having a proactive approach is going to be important. You may face several rejections along the way before you secure a goal. So, you know, developing your skills, staying motivated, and building experience are all really, really important. And one of the things that I often talk about is shifting from a student to a professional, and that's all about your mindset. So a law degree will very much provide a strong foundation, or a degree generally, because obviously you don't have to have a law degree anymore, but it doesn't secure outcomes. And employers will always look for skills, motivation, and evidence that you can contribute to their organisation. And the legal profession is very much evolving due to technology, new business models, regulatory changes, which is creating lots of new opportunities. So while people just think about solicitor and barrister, there's lots of other roles that you can start thinking about. What's quite interesting is many graduates will not practice law full time, and legal training is valued in a wide range of other sectors and career journeys, or career kind of journeys are not linear. So successful graduates develop a professional mindset very early on, and that's where it all goes back to defining your career goals. What you've got to do is move out of an academic mindset and think about making that transition into the workplace, because employers will expect you to be curious, adaptable, and have a willingness to learn. Your studies are going to give you that grounding, but your behaviours, your awareness, and engagement with the profession are what's going to shape the direction you take. So think about the value you add, and employers want candidates who understand the wider context of legal work. So stay informed on current issues and really think about all of those skills that you've got and can bring to the table. So what we're going to move into now in routes into law, and thinking a little bit more about what you can do. And someone's just said in the chat about securing outcomes. Securing outcomes means actually getting that job eventually, because that's your aim. If you do a law degree or you do a non-law degree, your aim is to secure an outcome which eventually is going to be that final job. Just moving on then, exploring legal roles and thinking a little bit more about them. And a poll has just gone up about where you might be interested in working. Obviously, BARBRI are well known for the SQE route, the solicitor qualifying exam, and becoming a solicitor. And the solicitor profession in the UK continues to grow, but the structure of the market is actually undergoing significant change. There are about 174,000 practicing solicitors in the UK, and around about 34,000 of those are in-house solicitors who are working in more than 6,000 organisations. You might work within a law firm, in-house, in the public sector or charity. A law firm isn't your only route, but if that's what you're looking for, that's absolutely fine. But I would just say keep your options open and really look at what other jobs there could be, because it is competitive. There are overall about 368,000 legal jobs across the UK, and there's other roles such as legal support roles. But if we're going back to a solicitor, you're going to follow quite a structured and regulated career path. So the Solicitors Regulation Authority exists to give an overview of the sector. There are alternative routes. You might go and do the SQE1 with a provider such as ourselves. To become a solicitor, you would need to do the SQE1, the SQE2. Then you would need to do 2 years of qualifying work experience before you have a character and suitability requirements, which is your background check with the SRA, the Solicitors Regulation Authority. There are other routes like a solicitor or a graduate apprenticeship, and you could also look at what we call a SILEX Chartered Legal Executive, which is someone who has a more specialist area of legal expertise. And again, if you are interested in those, it's worth looking into and doing a bit more research. On the other hand, you have a barrister. They handle the most complex cases, often in court, and they will operate on a much more self-employed basis. And then all of the legal support roles like paralegal, legal executive, legal tech roles, legal PA, could move into learning and development, HR, they all exist as well, and they will exist in law firms. So if you're not 100% sure you want to be a solicitor or a barrister, there are lots of other roles that you can look at. So let's think a little bit more about the types of firms, because quite often people do want to be in a law firm and they get quite confused about the array of different firms they could move into. So you have your Magic Circle firms. You may have heard of these already. And Magic Circle firms are what are considered the elite corporate firms in the UK. And they tend to be Allen and Overy, Clifford Chance, Freshfields, Linklaters, and Slaughter and May. So they have a strong international presence. Their focus tends to be on complex, high-value corporate finance and cross-border transactional work, high salaries, but very demanding hours. But they have a large trainee intake. So they'll have about 85 to 120 per year, and they tend to be the benchmark for prestige. They're known for rigorous recruitment and structured career progression. They are quite competitive, but you can look at vacation schemes and training contracts, and I would also search on Legal Cheat's platform for a lot more detail about these law firms. You've also got US firms in London, and they're increasingly influential in the UK market. And they often operate as satellite offices of large US-based global firms through, though some of them function as integrated worldwide practices. They're again known for high salaries, a smaller intake for trainees, often up to about 45. And there'll be firms such as Kirkland and Ellis, Latham and Watkins, White and Case. Workloads will be very high, often exceeding 70 hours per week at a junior level, and they tend to dominate in private equity, high-end finance and litigation. Silver Circle firms are the firms below the Magic Circle in market position. They're your McFarlanes, your Travis Smith and Ashurst. They will handle premium, often domestic complex legal work, and they might be slightly more agile and entrepreneurial in culture than Magic Circle firms, and they might offer a slightly better work-life balance as well. You've also got large global and city firms. They're like the ones like Norton Rose Fulbright, CMS, Taylor Wessing, and they're strong corporate and commercial practices. They're large, but they're not the Magic Circle level trainee intakes. They might take around 60. Again, slightly less intense hours, but still highly demanding. And the clients will include major corporate and financial institutions. You've also got boutique firms, and they will specialise in a very specific area of law, such as maybe employment, IP, media law, high-end litigation, and they tend to be highly specialised in expertise and a strong reputation within those niche sectors. Smaller teams, maybe a more personalised client service, and trainees will often gain earlier responsibility as well as close supervision. And there are fewer jobs with these sorts of companies or firms or organisations, so persevere. You've also got regional and national firms that will operate outside of London and across multiple UK regions. They will serve a mix of businesses, public sector organisations and individuals, and they will maybe offer a more varied work environment with the potential for better life balance, work-life balance. So think DWF, Grabner's, Hill Dickinson. And then you also have what we would call high street firms. They're local firms serving more individuals and small businesses. So focus might be on things like wills, probate, family, conveyancing. And sometimes they're sole operators, but sometimes they'll have small teams. So really worth looking into these in more detail. Look at Legal Cheap's platform and other platforms just to find out a bit more. One of the top tips I always give is to actually have a bit of a hit list. So set yourself up an Excel spreadsheet and have a hit list of firms that you really want to research and find out more about. And that will keep your kind of research much more methodical and strategic, and you won't forget things either, because once you do start actually applying for jobs, it can take up quite a long time, and it can be quite confusing if you're applying to multiple firms or organizations. So that's just a tip to kind of help you remain organized. So let's think about the main practice areas that there are. You will come across full service commercial law firms and then non-commercial practice areas. So the commercial practice areas are typically found in those full service commercial law firms, where they'll mainly work with businesses, financial institutions and large organisations. Often you'll see vacation schemes or a training contract offered within one of those, and a training contract gives you the chance to try out different areas of law through 4 seat rotations, which are done over 6 months each, so that you can discover what you genuinely enjoy. And it's also worth looking at other schemes that they're offering. On the other hand, non-commercial practice areas, they're more focused on individuals, communities, or public interest work. And understanding the difference between commercial and non-commercial will help you think about the kind of environment, pace, and type of client you may prefer. But it also helps you to consider where your interests and strengths may best fit within the legal sector. When I said put together an Excel spreadsheet, what I mean by that is, you know, all of the firms that you want to cover, and then have tabs yet maybe for work, hours, like you've said, pay, but also in-depth research. You know, you do need to be looking at maybe what they're kind of doing, who are their clients, research further into the sector, think about your commercial awareness. What do you know about the firm overall? If you attend any events or networking, if you speak to anyone at that firm, keep it all logged, because that will help you to stay on track. Okay, so a typical day, and this is very much based on being a solicitor, because obviously that's BARBRI's expertise. A typical day will depend on where you work and the role that you do, and there's going to be very many different variations. And if you were going to be a barrister, you would obviously spend much more time in court. But if you're looking at a solicitor, a lot of it is about kind of the background work, because you are you're instructed by the client, and you will do a lot of client work, so advising clients on legal matters and providing clear explanations of complex legal issues, conducting meetings with them, a lot of legal research, a lot of drafting and reviewing of documents. A lot of your work is through communication, not just face to face, but also, working with clients, opposing parties, doing a lot of things via phone, email, letters. You'll also do case management, ongoing cases, preparing them for court, gathering evidence and filing the necessary documents. And a lot of it is very administrative heavy. So, opening client files, invoicing clients and managing other office responsibilities. So I think what I'd be getting at here is starting to think about a day-to-day role, what you would do as a solicitor, a barrister or another legal role. But if you're thinking specifically as a solicitor, then this just gives you a bit of a flavour of what you might do. But you need to drill down in a lot more detail. And one of the best ways is to also speak to people in the sector. Could you talk to a solicitor if you go along to an event, talk to trainees, find out what they do on a day-to-day basis. It's not always as glamorous as it looks. So you need to think about the realities of the job as well. So let's move on and think about the importance of research then and how this can help you. I know it's not always the most fun thing to do, but important because you do need to understand the legal sector. And by that, research is going to help you to understand the breadth and the depth of legal practice, including all of the areas that you need to kind of think about and be, whether you're interested in it. And it also will help you to inform your career choices because, like I said, law offers multiple career paths. So it's starting to think about what's going to match with your personal interests, your values, your strengths, etc. It's also going to help think about your skills and be aware of the competencies that legal employers require, because you need to think about things like analytical thinking, critical thinking, communication, paying attention to detail, having commercial awareness, and all of that research will help you to identify any skill gaps you've got, but also think about how you can build on these and kind of develop them through work experience, through your academic studies, through volunteering, that sort of thing. It's also going to give you insight into the firm's structure and their culture, because each firm has a very unique culture, client base, and strategic focus. So research is going to help you to identify employers that are aligned with your goals, and a firm's culture is very much going to affect your long-term job satisfaction, your well-being, etc. So research will help you to find environments that maybe support your identity, your work style, and your values. Think diversity and inclusion, think corporate social responsibility, how flexible do they let you hybrid work? All of these things are things that you've got to kind of consider, as well as career progression. Are there international opportunities? Are there routes to specialise? So you can look at law firm rankings, you can look at reputation overall for their practice area and the type of firm that they are. The biggest thing that research is going to help you with is also tailoring your applications. Generic applications rarely succeed. You need to think quality over quantity, and research is going to enable you to reference firm-specific values, cases, or initiatives, and it's going to help you align your experiences with the firm's expectations. And you will also need to really demonstrate a genuine interest, why law, why that specific firm, and you need to demonstrate your commercial awareness in an application form. So all of that research can help to do that, and it will help you when you get to interview as well. That interview preparation where they actually kind of, start asking about your knowledge of the firm, the sector, the current legal issues. You'll be able to answer it much easier if you've done a lot of research and you've really looked into stuff online. And that stuff online, as I so eloquently put it, is going to be places like Legal Cheat, great platform to find really in-depth information that will help you to move forward. But you've also got a wealth of other platforms all about law, Glassdoor, you've got the Lawyer Portal, lawcareers.net, Crafty Counsel. If you're looking to work in-house, that's a community that you can look at. Chambers Student, Legal 500, and then think about joining the Law Society, and then your commercial awareness, you know, read the news outlets, etc. And there's a QR code in the top right section, and that will take you to Head Start, our free taster careers platform at BARBRI as well. So start with the Legal Cheat, but there's many other platforms as well, but Legal Cheat will give you that good grounding and that good research that you need to have. So quite a lot on this slide, I appreciate, and it's an overview of the things that you need to start looking at. And by that, I mean what to look for, what to explore, and why it matters. So somebody asked me earlier about the, you know, creating a hit list on the Excel spreadsheet. This can help you. So think about practice areas, think about client cases, firm type and size, what training and development is offered, what's the culture and work environment like. And then what to explore, it gets even deeper. So if you're looking at practice areas, you know, what are the legal specialisms the firm focuses on, such as commercial law or technology law or family law, because this is going to help you to understand what the firm is known for and which areas of law you might want to move into. And then match that to your own interests and your long-term career goals. Also think about client and cases, research the types of clients the firm work with, the kinds of cases or transaction it handles. Some firms will work with large corporate clients, as I've said, some with individuals or public sector organisations. So look for notable deals, major litigation, or any interesting matters that have been reported publicly. All of that can be found on things like, you know, the big platforms that I talked about on the last slide, but also by looking at the Law Society, the Law Gazette, these big publications. And this is what you need to be doing now to help yourself move forward. A lot of it is just starting with a Google search. So don't overcomplicate things. Just start thinking about it. And someone's just asked, how can I connect the practice area to interest? Well, you will probably already know whether you would rather work with institutions or companies or individuals, what sort of impact you want to make in law. Start doing some research into practice areas. Doesn't matter that you haven't actually had experience in the legal sector. What you're starting to do is base it by looking on at your own career goals, your own skills, you know, what you enjoy doing, things like that. If you have a careers advisor within your university, your college, that's another good way of kind of talking about interests that you have. So this is the starting point then. Look at the firm type and size. You know, as I said earlier, is it a Magic Circle firm, a US firm, a national firm? Each firm has a different culture, different workload expectation, a different approach to training and progression. For you know, if you think about larger commercial firms, they may offer higher salaries, they may offer international opportunities, but they're also going to have longer working hours. And a big thing students will often say to me when I'm talking to them is, oh, I'm looking for more work-life balance in life. Well, then you are going to need to think about the type of firm you maybe go and work in, because law has, you know, got expectations. So you would need to consider that. And maybe a Magic Circle firm won't fit as well as a different type of firm that could. Think about the culture and work environment, because this can make or break your experience. Look at how the firm talks about collaboration, hierarchy, flexibility, and work-life balance. You know, does it highlight diversity and well-being? Do trainees talk positively about their environment? If you start going to events, talking to people as well, the culture directly affects your well-being, your performance, and your long-term career satisfaction, because you want to find that environment where you can be yourself, where you can feel supported and build a sustainable career. So there is lots to think about with this. Just moving on then, you've also got things around corporate and social responsibility. So start by looking at the firm's approach to this. You know, what's their pro bono work record like? Sustainability initiatives, do they get involved in community engagement activities? It can tell you a lot about a firm's values and how seriously it takes its wider social impact. And it's well worth thinking about pro bono work early on, maybe when you're studying, because that is a really good way to gain legal experience. So something to consider and look into. Also, explore the firm's diversity and inclusion efforts. You know, many firms will publish information about gender, ethnicity, LGBTQ plus representation, and it might also highlight employee networks, mentoring schemes, or specific initiatives that are designed to support underrepresented groups. So it's well worth looking into that. A strong inclusion practice will help create an environment where everyone feels they belong, and a genuine commitment to diversity can tell you a lot about a firm's culture, support structure, and how progressive it is in their working practices as well. The other thing is innovation and technology, and you'll hear a lot about AI and legal technology, but how innovative are they in their legal tech, digital transformation products, and the adoption of AI tools? Firms that invest in innovation, they'll tend to be more forward thinking and adaptable, and that's particularly important in a profession that is rapidly evolving. So understanding a firm's attitude to technology can help to give you that competitive edge, especially at interview, because commercial awareness is increasingly linked to how firms position themselves in the digital landscape. So really worth looking into this now. Also, recent news and achievements, you know, what's going on with the firm? Have they had any awards, mergers, new office openings, strategic changes? Because all of that will help you demonstrate commercial awareness, and it shows interest in the firm, and it allows you to reference specific developments that really prove you've done your research. And interviewers will really value this level of insight, because what you're trying to do is show that you have researched them fully and that you know the difference between them and their competitor. And finally, look for any application advice that the firm provides. So many firms will publish information about what they look for in candidates, and they'll offer tips from maybe recruiters or trainees. And this can be incredibly helpful, especially when you're preparing your CV, your covering letter, or answering the questions on an application form, because that will give you a clearer sense of the competencies and the qualities that that firm prioritizes, and it will help you to tailor your approach and present yourself more effectively. And so taken together, both these slides, there's a lot on them, I know, it's going to kind of give you that much richer picture of the firm and give you more of an insight into their culture, the priorities, and the future direction, which is really going to provide strong material for tailored, impactful applications and confident interview responses. And that's what you want to show a future employer. But I appreciate that when you're starting out, it's quite overwhelming, because there is a lot of research that you do need to do. And that's why I would start with Legal Cheats platform and Head Start, BARBRI's free career taster platform, just to give you a starting point. So a couple of things you can do, and I'm not going to go into this in major detail, but it's something to jot down for future knowledge, that what we call a PESTLE analysis can often help you. So a PESTLE analysis is a strategic tool that can significantly enhance your research when choosing the right law firm. And it helps you evaluate external factors that influence the legal sector and individual firms. And it can give you a broader understanding of the environment in which they operate. And what you're doing is you're looking at each of these different kind of things. So political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. So just to give you a little bit of an overview, political would be understanding how government policies, Brexit implications, or regulatory reforms might affect law firms. And it might be economically, you need to think about how do economic trends such as inflation, recession, interest rates, how does that influence client demand and firm strategy? Now, this is getting into it much deeper, but what you can do is kind of go on to something like Google and ask for kind of a PESTLE analysis, for the legal sector or for things. But take each one, don't overthink it, but it's a good tool to help you research and look at law firms. On the other hand, and I think an more easier one is what we call a SWOT analysis. Now, you may have come across a SWOT analysis before, but a SWOT analysis is a practical tool that can help you evaluate law firms more strategically when deciding where you might want to apply or where you might want to build your career. And what that's doing is looking at its strengths, its weaknesses, its opportunities, and its threats. And you can also do a SWOT analysis for yourself. So, if you wanted to kind of think about moving into law, you could start by looking at your own strengths, any weaknesses or areas you might need to develop, what opportunities there are in the sector, and what are the threats as well. Threat might be that it is a highly competitive industry to get into and that jobs might be harder to get than other sectors. Not necessarily, because as I kind of have said earlier, it goes back to being persistent, motivated, and having a proactive approach. As I always say, it is a competitive industry to get into, but someone has to get the job. Why shouldn't it be you? And that's something to always remember. As long as you are kind of giving your all, why shouldn't you get that job at that law firm you want to go into? What I would say is just keep all your options open and don't put all your eggs in one basket. And by that, I mean, look at other areas like in-house, public sector, charities, things like that. But the SWOT analysis can just give you an overview. So if you think about looking at a specific law firm, you can look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats to kind of help you do that research. But it's something to consider and a tool to help keep you on track. So the other thing just to start thinking about is a little bit more around attending employer events, because going to an employer event and doing networking is going to give you that opportunity to build on knowledge already gained through research. And it's always also going to give you the opportunity to be visible. Now, being visible in law is important. Now, physically visible by going along to open evenings or networking events or careers fairs, that's good. You can do that online as well. So they'll often do online events. LinkedIn is a really good place to do that. And we'll come on to that in a bit. But let's think about employer events to start with. So it's going to give you insight into the legal profession. So you're going to be able to learn a bit more about the different practice areas that firm or organisation might practice. And it helps you to understand the day-to-day realities of working in a law firm or legal department. It's also going to give you really good networking opportunities. So you're going to hopefully meet, recruitment teams, the trainees, the associates, the partners, and that will help you to build connections that could lead to mentoring in the future, work experience, or even job opportunities. It's also going to give you direct access to employers where you can ask them specific questions about the recruitment process, about the firm culture, and about career progression. So it gives you a bit more clarity on what firms look for in applications and in interviews as well. It boosts commercial awareness. So that's all about current legal trends, any landmark cases they've had, any industry challenges. It's going to help you to stay informed and confident when you do get to interview or you fill in that application form. It's going to improve your applications because you'll be able to tailor your cover letter, your CV, your application form using genuinely kind of gained insights from conversations that you've had. So I would really, really recommend doing that as well. And it clarifies career goals. So discover, which firms or areas of law do actually align with your values and interests, and it's going to help you to kind of make more informed decisions about training contracts, qualifying work experience, further kind of study. But it's also where you can practice professional skills. So it's going to help you to develop confidence in speaking with professionals in law, and you can practice asking those thoughtful questions, be visible, be memorable, which is really, really important. What I would say on the flip side, though, that attending employer events, they may present quite a polished, idealized kind of version of the firm rather than offering true, candid insights, because they want you to come and work for them, hopefully, in the future. So they might not go into work-life balance so much, or diversity challenges, or if there's issues around their culture, they might be more kind of glossed over or avoided. So you've got to take that into account, and that's where it can be hard to sometimes distinguish between, their genuine enthusiasm and what their strategic messaging might be, especially if you're new to the sector. So that's where it can be really good to reach out to people in the sector or people that maybe have worked at that law firm in the past to see if they can give you any insight. And Glassdoor is another place where you can look up like reviews on firms and organisations. I would slightly take it with a pinch of salt though, because sometimes if you've not had the best experience in a firm or an organisation, you might not write a great review. So, is there a theme when you're reading those reviews? But it's worth doing a bit more research into that. And just moving into thinking more about network meetings, what do you need to do before the event then? So if you're going to go to a network event or you're going to attend a firm insight day, research maybe who's going to be there. If it's a big kind of careers fair where there's lots of law firms or organisations, know who's there, who are the speakers or the professionals there. Prepare what we call your elevator pitch. You may have heard of that as your 30-second commercial. But if you think about being in an elevator, you've got 30 seconds to move up floors. Somebody really prominent gets in. I always like to imagine Richard Branson gets into the lift with me. Would I sell myself to Richard Branson? Yes, I would. Now, Richard Branson may not need a careers advisor in his company, but a lot of my skills actually would fit to being a really good private secretary on Necker Island. You can see I've given this some serious thought. So if you think about somebody like a partner or somebody very well known in law getting into a lift with you and you knew who they were, it's what you would say to them to remain memorable and visible and kind of show that elevator pitch or 30-second commercial. So that might be introducing your name, if you're studying, what your career interests are, something like that. You can also set goals. You can, thank you for that. I have given it some serious thought if I did meet Richard Branson, absolutely. But yeah, set goals, decide what you want to learn or who you want to speak to at network meetings, and bring the essentials. Be organised, that notebook, that pen, your LinkedIn QR code on your phone, and be ready, dress appropriately, you know, look the part. During the event, be curious, ask open-ended questions like, what do you enjoy most about your role, or what would you give someone like myself starting out advice on? You know, listen actively, show genuine interest, and avoid interrupting. Take notes, jot down any useful insights, names, or follow-up actions. Be respectful of time, because remember, conversations, you know, they might want to talk to several people if other people are waiting, but approach people confidently, smile, make eye contact, and introduce yourself. Don't just stick with friends. We all want to do that. I'm guilty of it as well. When I go to networking events, I'd rather stick with people I know, but actually challenge yourself to meet new people. And it's often easier to chat during breaks or after panels. After the event, then follow up. You could send them a polite LinkedIn request or email them and thank them for their time and referencing your conversation, but also reflect, what did you learn and what could you do differently next time if you do go to an event? Because they are a bit nerve-wracking, and I appreciate that. But act on any advice that you're given and apply tips or explore opportunities mentioned during the event, because that's going to help you move forward a little bit more. So just some things to consider, and I know we've got a few questions. Could we mention a core interest, pro bono work we want to make an impact in? Absolutely, you can do that. And I would practice your elevator pitch and put one together, and there'll be loads of hints and tips of how to do that online. And post-COVID handshakes, people still do handshake nowadays, so that's absolutely fine. You can still shake someone's hand, but I appreciate not everybody wants to. So, you know, take kind of cue from people at the networking event. Some people will naturally stick their hand out, other people, you know, are more reserved and don't. So yeah. Okay, I'm conscious of time and getting through everything. So just very briefly, questions to ask at these networking events or these employer insight events. You know, people love people that are curious. So how did you get into law? What does your typical day involve? Can you tell me more about that area of law you specialise in? Because all of this is going to help you decide if it's what you want to do. What do you enjoy about your job? You know, and people love to talk about themselves, so they're going to probably, you know, find it really refreshing that you're asking these questions. How would you describe the culture at your firm? What advice would you give to a candidate who is considering applying to your firm? Now, that's just a snapshot. There's lots of other questions you could ask and you could, you know, research and look into. But as a starting point, those are some of the ones that you could start asking at these type of events. And don't forget careers fairs. You know, there's so much that you can kind of go along to and find out about. You know, it's amazing once you start researching what you can find out about the profession. Going to briefly talk about LinkedIn, because it is a really, really great way of actually finding out about firms and about people working within those firms. So a couple of things to think about. And I think because digital visibility isn't optional anymore, LinkedIn is consistently cited as the most powerful platform for legal professionals, and there are a lot of legal influencers on there that you can start following that talk a lot around the sector. It's really quite interesting. But what you're wanting to do on LinkedIn is you want to showcase your personal brand. So by that, you can do a bit of thought leadership by posting more regularly. You can engage in groups and discussions. You can showcase your expertise or learn more about the sector. And it's a really powerful tool because it actually allows you to see who's working in those firms that you're interested in, and that's going to help you to understand the many different ways that people enter the sector, because like I said earlier, it's not linear anymore. There's not a straight line into a role in a law firm. Lots of people come in looking at different routes. So it's going to help you to do that, and it can help you to identify people you may want to reach out to for insight and advice. You can narrow your search by using filters such as location, practice area, job title, even university. So if you've got a big alumni network at your university or something like that, reach out to them. They're more likely to help you if you've got kind of something in common with them. It's a great way to learn about the firms more generally, because you can pick up bits about their culture, their values, their mission statements. You can read posts or articles, and you can get a sense of what firms are maybe prioritising strategically, and keep an eye on the recent news and updates, because that's all going to help you to build that commercial awareness that law firms are looking for. I'd encourage you to make personalised connections. If you do reach out to someone, make sure you include a short, polite message explaining who you are and why you're getting in touch. Personalised messages are far more effective and make it more likely that you'll receive a response. Now, you can see my QR code is up on the screen. I don't expect, if you want to connect with me, please do so. I don't expect you to send me a personalised message. Just to give you, that now. But if you're reaching out to somebody in a firm or somebody who's a complete stranger, a personalised message is probably going to be the way forward as well. And if you're attending events in person, that LinkedIn QR code is really useful to bring up on your phone, because it's a really simple way to connect with people quickly and professionally without needing to search for them afterwards. So people often say to me, how do I find that? If you're on the phone app, use the search bar. You'll see it on the search bar, and then the QR symbol comes up on the right hand side. So it's just an easy way of doing it if you attend any events. So what to do next then, and what you can do now to move forward, because I know that this is a lot of information to take in. I think sometimes you just need a starting point, and that's where I'd say Legal Cheat platform and the BARBRI Head Start website is a really good place to start the process of research. But consider your career goals. What route are you looking into? Solicitor, barrister, another legal role entirely? Research all of the opportunities available and explore those qualification routes. If you're looking at a solicitor, it would be the SQE1 and the SQE2. So it's well worth looking at BARBRI and our website and having a bit more of an understanding of the route. Complete skills audit. Start thinking about the skills that you've got, but also think about the skills you might need to develop in law and the ones you might need to work on and where you can get them, because it might be that you're working part-time at the moment and a lot of skills are being kind of developed there, or it might be through your academic studies or a volunteering role. So it's well worth looking into the skills that you've got and what you need to develop. Build your personal brand. As we've just been saying, use LinkedIn, network, things like that will really, really help. You can't really do a skills, well, there are places you can probably look. I would have a look at the National Careers Service website as well, and Legal Cheat might tell you more about the skills that you need to do. But it's, what I mean by a skills audit is sitting down and really thinking about, okay, so I currently work in Costa or Starbucks, there are other coffee shops. what skills am I using within that job? And that might be communication, teamwork, it might be problem solving. All of those skills are going to be relevant to a future career in law. So that's what I mean. Think about things you're involved with and use Legal Cheek to do that. And then attend any insight events, be visible, develop your commercial awareness. So start thinking about reading the news, Financial Times, BBC, get on Legal Cheek's, kind of platform, follow the Law Society, the Law Gazette, all of that's going to help. Understand legal tech and AI a bit more. I'm not an expert in it. I'm not a qualified solicitor by background. There are lots of tools that they will use. You need to start looking into it, thinking about AI and things that are coming in. It's really, really finding out more now. And any legal work experience you can gain is going to be beneficial, whether that's a vacation scheme, whether that's by doing something pro bono or volunteering. But don't forget all of that really great non-law work experience as well, because those skills are transferable, like I just said. So that's really, really important as well. So just finally, because we're coming kind of 4 minutes out before we can start networking, I just wanted to give you a bit of an overview of what you can tap into through BARBRI's employability service. Obviously, once you're an enrolled student, you get the full service, but at this stage, what you can get access to is Head Start, which is a Taster Careers platform. And on there, it's a really great starting point to do more legal research. So look at law career guides. We also have loads of SQE tips. There's a video from one of our learning coaches telling you more. You can try out some of the multiple choice questions that you would be asked in SQE1. You can also book onto some of our events. We have some industry insight events that are open to everyone. And we've got lots of links out to useful career websites. Legal Cheek is on there. But also things like mental health and wellbeing support, because you do need to be quite resilient within law. And so we also like to advise and give you things that are going to help you to stay more balanced overall. Interestingly, someone's just said they're a career changer. We've actually got a career changer webinar coming up at the end of the week. So you might want to go on to that, Anne, and that will tell you a little bit more. But I have put the links in the chat as well. But for Head Start, the QR code is there. And just finally, we are all over social media, including TikTok. Yes, we are. So come and have a look at us on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram. And also we have a group called SQE Future Lawyers on LinkedIn that you can also tap into. So please do come and join us there, where we give employability insight and updates. So it's been great talking to you today. Thank you so much. A lot of information I know to take in, but hopefully you'll have picked up some golden nuggets. And if you can stay on for the networking, it would be great.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Steph. That was really great. I'm sure that students are going to start sending in their thanks in the chat now. So as Steph mentioned, the event is not over just yet. So for the next 30 minutes, we're going to be moving over to the Expo tab for half an hour of networking with the BARBRI team. So Steph will be there, and there'll also be another member of the BARBRI team in there as well. So if you've got any questions that you still want to ask, this is a great opportunity for that. So Steph, if you want to move over now, you'll just need to click on the Expo tab in the left-hand sidebar and then click into BARBRI's booth. For those in the audience, click on Expo now and head in to the booth. We would recommend that you share your audio and video in there for the best experience, just because it's a little bit nicer speaking to face-to-face with someone rather than interacting via a chat. But yes, so I'm going to be heading over there now. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and we hope to see you at our events very soon.